Hey, welcome to another of our local pilot programme theory illustrations, and this is about our work with Greater Manchester and the features of system working that we're focusing on today is the effective work across and between sectors. So let's just delve into this a little bit more now. So effective work across and between sectors is something which is relatively easy to say, but what do we actually mean by this? So there's some steps in this process that I want to talk through. First of all, really it's about broadening and connecting the network. And that's not just about creating a partnership of interested people, but also to do the work that aligns values, principles and common goals. So in Greater Manchester, what the teams and various teams have been doing is some quite time-intensive work with individuals, often not just organisations and not just different sectors, to talk about physical activity and establish what their involvement in physical activity might be. Maybe it's because they have an authentic interest in it, or maybe it's because they see it as a way of meeting their own objectives, if that's in a work capacity, for example, around active travel. This does take quite a lot of effort, and what we've learned over the past couple of years is that persistence does pay off. And that might be about persisting with a single individual, just going back to them, ensuring that you actually follow up on actions, but also providing a range of evidence. And that might include the academic evidence that suggests that physical activity has a range of benefits, but also, really importantly, the local anecdote and the voice of local people demonstrating what a difference physical activity means for them. And so what would we expect if we were able to achieve that broadened network, well, a wider reach, and also the work to align values and principles, perhaps ensuring that the changes that we're suggesting to enable active lives is actually coherent with local priorities and people are pulling in the same direction. And what we've actually identified prior to COVID is that often those priorities aren't aligning, and people were thinking about perhaps efficiencies and the financial constraints that they're working under. But COVID has really highlighted the importance of physical activity for a range of aspects, and even as a means to promote health to avoid the worst impacts of COVID, and recognise that they alone are not able to make the full change that we might want to see. But what we do have to recognise is that there are still vested interests in the way that people have always worked, and so there's work to be done to be able to make effective collaborations. So that does really obviously include the building of relationships and trust. And actually what we've seen over the last 6 months is that that can be achieved by working on common projects together. And we've seen examples of where different partners from across the system, including education, community sector, the physical activity sector, have come together to be able to deliver physical activity sessions and stimulate ideas around physical activity with people who are really struggling to get by. When you work together, that is really enhances the relationships. You know, you build respect, you build affinity where things work. It can be joyful, it boosts morale. But these tangible projects don't always have a long-lasting impact on systems change. So we've become really interested in how we can take those relationships and inform more longer-term productive partnerships around common goals. And this would mean work towards embedding those processes, that it goes beyond just the relationship with an individual that you happen to get on with, but it becomes physical activity or enabling activity becomes part and parcel of what people do across all aspects of policy and across different parts of the community. You know, because coordination does drive efficiency, and also there's just joint problem solving and shared responsibility, and people can invest in each other's successes. So how are Greater Manchester Local Pilot going about doing this? Well, it's a balance of quick wins and longer term goals, and attempts to pool resources and energy, working co-commissioning across the their boroughs, for example. But we are recognising that the wider the reach, the more difficult it is to maintain the capacity to support the programme. And we're going to talk in the next theory example about the work that is needed to do to unravel some of the system blockages where processes are not really designed to support collaboration, and also the work that is needed to be done to be able to demonstrate the impact of the work where you're working together. Then it's about the contribution that each partner makes and not about exclusive contribution from one partner over another. So that's the end of our theory session on effective work across and between sectors, one of the features supporting people in moving to enable active lives.